never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn
Hi
around.
guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Today is another fantastic day for an interview. And I've got today a guest with me that I actually observed from the sidelines for a long time because he's been out there and has been improving himself. He has got a show that has been active so long, I mean, many years, since at least 2017, but he has been in broadcasting since 2004. This man has been around the block a few times. And during this time, he has experimented with all kind of psychological as well as physical and physiological ways of improving himself to the version 2.0, 3.0. I don't know which version he is at. We're going to find out in a moment. It's an honor and a privilege to talk to Jeremy Grater. Welcome to my show.
Oh, thank you so much. The honor and privilege is all here. I appreciate that. That's a beautiful intro.
So which version are you at?
Oh, 87, I think,
Yeah.
89, somewhere in there. Who knows? The number is constantly climbing day to day.
Oh, isn't it? Because day to day,
Yeah.
we're gonna learn more about ourselves, and we are in a beautiful time in on this earth because we have got the functional medicine insights, the behavioral sciences making leaps and bounds. Equally, the sciences that are relating specifically to the body are more or less coming out of their ivory towers, and we learn from here and there and everywhere. And if you are in the right frame of mind and are willing to learn, then suddenly you can turn your life around again and again and again. And you are living proof that this is a fact. We both are, actually. So, but I mean, how did your journey start? How did you get into this self-improvement mindset?
It really started with probably one of the dumbest injuries you've ever heard of in your life. I literally hurt my knee getting out of bed. My at the time very young daughter was asleep in the next room, and the grocery delivery guy came at 6 in the morning or whatever. And as he starts setting things on the porch, the dog loses his mind, starts barking like crazy. And any parent of a new kid knows if that dog wakes the kid, my day's over. Like, this is awful. So I just stepped out of bed, and for whatever reason, however I landed, my knee buckled. I went down, and I could not put any weight on my leg, and just literally getting out of bed. So over the course of trying to rehab it and figure out what to do, I went to a bunch of different doctors, different scans, x-rays, all the different things. And ultimately it was a physical therapist who said, given this situation and your family's history with knee replacements, you're on track to end up replacing both of your knees unless you get on a bike. And I remember thinking, I'm 30 something at the time. And I'm like, I'm not going to ride a bike. What am I, 6? Who rides a bike when they're at this point? So I dismiss it, laugh it off. And, at the time I'm doing a podcast with my brother, and I'm chatting with him before a show. I'm like, that's crazy. Doctor thinks I'm going to ride a bike. And for whatever reason at the time, the way he said it just landed. My brother said, maybe you just need to be the weird guy who rides his bike to work.
Excellent.
And I thought about it, and I was like, I'm the weird guy for a lot of reasons. Why not that one too? Like, let's throw this at the wall and see what sticks. And so I got on Craigslist and ordered I bought a bike from somebody and had it within a week, and started kind of testing that track. It was a 9-mile ride to work both ways.
Mhm.
And within, a couple of weeks, I was like, this is totally me. Like, I love this. And what I loved about it was, you know, the fact that it forced me to live in that moment every single time. I spent so much time worrying about what I screwed up at work yesterday. What am I going to screw up at work today, tomorrow? What am I doing wrong as a parent? What am I doing wrong over here? When I'm on that bike, all I have to focus on is don't die right now. Just whatever it takes, don't die right now. Don't hit that car. Don't hit that tree. Watch out for that pothole. But it's all so focused on just being present. And all of a sudden, work was a little bit easier because I wasn't living in the future or the past, and home was getting easier and easier. And so I remember going to my wife and saying, how do I do more of this? How do I bring this more into my life? And she said, I'm no expert, idiot. Go talk to a therapist. So I went and talked to a therapist, and he taught me all about meditation, Dharma, like all the just being present, focusing on breath. And all of that just started to gel together. So that was, when people ask, like, what's the one thing you did? I started riding a bike, but the lessons that I learned from it were what opened the door to 3 more lessons on the other side, 3 more lessons on the other side of that. And it's just been a journey ever since of trying to figure out what's behind door number 3.
The zen of water blasting. Exactly. You're learning to live in the moment. And I think this is, especially in nowadays hectic world, we are so tempted with anything to escape our reality. And it's getting easier. Let that be with social media, drinks, drugs, food, gambling, pornography, you name it on the, within seconds or microseconds, you have got it either on your device or in real life. And here you are, uh, by accident, literally, finding a way of living in the moment. How beautiful is that? God, someone was looking out for you there. If the
Yeah.
universe was playing with you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, going on a bike is one thing, but then to actually invest yourself further in there, um,
Mhm.
what were the driving factors that accelerated that growth? Because you
Yeah.
didn't just stop there. I mean, many people nowadays ride their bike to
Yeah.
work, and you see it, and it's all nice, but well, that's about it. When it
Yeah.
comes to physical exercise, you took it the next step.
Yeah. It was the fact that I felt so much better that made me curious. After basically being miserable and tired and exhausted and feeling terrible all the time, I
Mm,
thought, well, I did one thing different. What else could I do?
mm.
And I was privileged enough to work at a place that had a gym downstairs that we had free access to.
Oh,
And, if I can
beautiful.
get out of work for an hour to go to the gym, let's go. So I decided,
Mm,
let's just add that. Let's just go down there and see what I can do. And so I got together with a trainer, found some different workouts I could do.
mm.
And, all of a sudden I had more energy. Like you would think that that would wear you out, right? Like you ride a bike for 9 miles and then you go work out for an hour. But I kept finding that the more I moved and the more I did, the better I felt. And from there, weight started to come off, not only because of all that, but, when I would walk by the countertop that would normally have all the donuts and stuff that everybody brought in from the office that day, it literally in my mind stopped registering as food. Where normally I would grab one on the way to the desk and on the way back to the coffee machine. All of a sudden I would see that stuff and go, that's not even food. Like there was the idea of eating it became so foreign that I couldn't do it anymore.
Excellent.
It's a problem I wish I still had now, if I'm being honest, but uh, it was just something changed as the weight was coming off and as I was
Yeah.
feeling better. I didn't need the escape of the cookie. I didn't need the escape of the
Nice.
donut. I didn't need the
Nice.
escape from my job in the form of these unhealthy habits. All of a sudden, I just felt better and I didn't need those crutches anymore. So
Mm.
it was that, right? So all of a sudden, I'm not eating junk food anymore. The antidepressants I'm on, I started experimenting with getting off of them. This actually came after a bike accident. I was on oxycodone for about a week, and being someone who comes from an addictive heritage, I realized quickly on those things for a week that I was like, if I keep taking these, this takes me down a path I don't want to stay on. And so I stopped taking those, which
Right.
then I got curious. If I stopped taking that, what if I stopped taking these antidepressants? What if I stop drinking? What if I just take a month off? See how does that feel? Again, it's just that curiosity of what if I tried something different than what's been not working for me? And all of it just continues to snowball into all these better ways of living that just make me feel better and have fewer stories in my head about what a traumatic experience this has to be.
Oh wow. I wish that this curiosity would have been there earlier in my life. I really have to say. In
You
my
and me
case,
both.
exactly. I needed a few 2x4s being hit over the head with by the universe for me to, trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma to let me grow. And I've grown tremendously, so I'm not complaining about the post-traumatic growth. I'm just saying, hey, come on, can we just stop with the trauma for a bit? It's,
Right. Seriously.
man, wow. Okay. So if wow. So it was really the physical side that first led to the turnaround. And we see that again and again. And interesting, you described sort of the aerobic side that helped you, and that we know from science that really the aerobic exercises tend to be a little bit better for the depression side of things. Were you an anxious man as well? You were saying about worrying about the problems that you did in a
Yeah.
work yesterday and in the future. Are you a warrior? And has the exercise helped with that? And which part of the exercise?
Mhm. So I never would have described myself as anxious. I was diagnosed pretty young with depression.
Uh,
I grew up in a house where, again, alcohol was an issue. There was, family issues that still hang with me today. But as a kid growing up in what felt like an unstable at best, I think, feeling, I carried that a long time, and it turned into depression. There's just this overwhelm that can take over when things feel out of control. And for me, the result was just shut down. And it would take days of just sitting or laying in a dark room and not interacting with people, just being there, sitting in it. It would be like the flu would come on. You just need to rest, and it would finally pass. And that became pretty frequent. It was, maybe monthly that I was having that situation. And that got in the way of a lot of life decisions. I didn't go for big jobs because I was afraid, what if I can't perform? I didn't, take big risks because I always just thought I could wake up tomorrow and not be able to do anything. And so I lived with a lot of fear and sadness about that. And so, yeah, I did start feeling better. It wasn't quite enough. I went through a lot of therapy for a lot of years. I did some more fringe work, I guess. There's a program, for lack of a better word, called core energetics that I was experimenting with, which is a lot of somatic, just like literally moving the energy. And that really kind of changed my perception on my depression and feelings in general, and how, like, I really believe that it is just this energy that just doesn't know where to go, or it's trapped and needs to move somehow. And so the more I started experimenting with that, like, those exercises started to remove the negative thoughts in my head. I literally remember the last time I had one was I was in Seattle visiting my family. I was there for one of these retreats for this group, and I had rushed out the door to get down there on time, and shoved all the stuff in my bag, and like in a hurry out the door. 3 hours in traffic, get there. I get to my mom's house. I go to brush my teeth that night, and my toothbrush isn't in my bag. And I was like, "You idiot! How could you forget something so?" And then I went, "Wait a minute. What's the real story? Are you an idiot? Are you that big of a dumbass that you forgot your toothbrush? Or were you in a rush? Did you have 5 minutes to get out the door? And do people just make mistakes sometimes?" And all of a sudden I was like, "Yeah, it's okay. This happens. I bet if you just open the drawer, I bet you there's an extra toothbrush right there." Open the drawer, sure enough, extra toothbrush. So it was just like, I literally remember thinking, like, I don't have to do that to myself anymore. Life sucks sometimes. That's okay. It happens to everybody. You're not unique in having terrible, unfortunate, or even inconvenient things happen to you. And literally ever since then, I don't think that way. What was the constant soundtrack in my life of, you suck, you're not good enough, you're not meant for this, success is for other people, good things happen to other people, you're not good enough to experience any of the joys of this life. I don't think like that at all. Like, I have to intentionally put myself in a place to even have those thoughts anymore. So it's really weird, because now there's this absence of that voice that I've been trying to fill with positive stories. But for the most part, like, the quiet, I'm still uneasy with, because it's like, that's all there was. And now I can just be in the moment, and literally just be in the moment, not telling myself all the stories of how terrible I am.
Beautiful. And you say how terrible I am. And that is the biggest thing. This I am is so powerful. The I am is actually you tell the subconscious what to do. I am fat. I am a failure. I am. And your mind, your subconscious says, yeah, okay, fine. I will work on that. You will be fat. And it sounds stupid, but that is actually such a powerful thing. And that's, I guess, where the positive affirmations come in. But just to do positive affirmations without anything else, well, that doesn't get you very far. I am rich, and then not taking any action into the right path. Yeah, about that. But
Right. But if you take it back to the origin story, I am the weird guy that rides his bike to work every day.
touche.
By taking the action, I've seen it over and over again, that when I wear the identity, when I become the person I want to become, when I
Absolutely.
become the guy that walks by the laundry basket that's overflowing with laundry and puts some in the machine, things run more smoothly. But if I am the guy who walks by all of his problems and waits for someone else to clean them up, sorry, there's no hero coming. Nobody's coming on a white horse to save you. It's all
Nice.
on you to clean up
Nice.
the mess. I love this story. One of my guests shared it this way. He basically said, trauma is the trash that the neighbor or somebody threw on your front lawn. It's not your fault that it's there, but somebody's got to clean it up, and I can pretty much guarantee they're not coming back to do it. So it's on you. It's your responsibility. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Exactly. And that's so powerful once you actually accept that and embody that. And many of us get overwhelmed, and I'm still the prime example. I still haven't found ways to consistently switch off those voices, but I now know that they're talking rubbish. For those of you listening or watching here, we've got about 60, 80,000 thoughts a day. People differ in their opinion, and about 80% of these thoughts are negative. And some of them are on repeat, okay, and is you're a failure. And these are often the core beliefs that were laid down in early childhood, or that somehow along the line were reinforced in us, and we believe that these thoughts are true. They are bullshit. They are lies that something in us tells us. And I think that is such an important realization. So please ask yourself, if you were to meet someone who speaks to you in the way you do to yourself, would you spend just a single second with that person? You would tell him where to go or her. But here you are, you're accepting that person within you. And that is so brutal. You would never, ever even talk to your worst enemy the way you talk to yourself.
It's interesting. My co-host on my show, Zach, he has a couple tools for those scenarios. One is he imagines his daughter. Would I ever talk to my daughter this way? Of course not. That's absurd.
Mm.
I'm never going to
Yeah.
do that again. The other tool he did for a long time, even before he had kids, is he put a picture of himself up. I can't remember where, but somewhere where he saw a picture of himself as a child, and just thought to himself, would I want someone to talk to me that way as a kid? Like, because that's who you're talking to. You're talking to that inner child who has all of these wounds.
Ooh.
And if you physically have to look at them and face them, it can be harder. I'll share that I tried that, but I had so much hatred for myself and for that kid, for who he was, and was not compassionate and forgiving of the way that that kid coped with his stuff, that I couldn't do it. I can't even look at the picture. I couldn't even look at the picture of
Mm.
myself as a child because I was so angry at that kid.
Mm.
But through a lot of the work that I've done, I've learned to realize that that kid was a victim of circumstance and used the best tools he had available.
Mm.
So I don't know that I've quite yet reached that like
Mm.
self-love, that love for my inner child, but
Mm.
I get him more than I used to. And so that's one of my, ongoing projects that I'm still working on.
Beautiful, beautiful. I am currently going through a divorce and through a lot of nasty, nasty times. And I really felt horrible. And I had the whole gamut of negative emotions flooding me and at times paralyzing me like a tsunami. And you just barely can keep above water. And one of the best courses I've done was a course about radical self-compassion. And that was such a beautiful, probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, where you actually learn to sit with your emotions and to accept them for whatever they are. And in my case, that was fear and terror. And to sit with fear for 5 minutes when normally, as someone who in the past appreciated alcohol a lot, oh yeah, come
Oh
on,
yeah.
give me a drink,
Yeah.
or do anything to run away, escape your reality, to now not escape the reality, but actually to sit with that emotion, analyze it, feel it, see how your stomach goes into a knot, and then give yourself a hug and say, actually, give yourself the self-compassion. That was a skill that I only learned what I'm 56, 57 now.
Mm.
So wow. And you seem to have done similar work. You have similar approaches, which I sort of sensed there. What were sort of some of the breakthroughs on a psychological basis that you felt, wow, this was one of the hardest things I have done?
Man, there's a lot. I think the story that probably is the most relatable is I was at my mom's for Thanksgiving. This was 2 Thanksgivings ago. And uh, I love my mom. My mom did an amazing job despite the circumstances that she was dealing with as a wife and a mother. And I know for whatever faults my parents have, I don't fault them for them. They just had less information and less ability to
Mm,
learn and to
mm,
grow than we have now. We have an infinite amount of information constantly bombarding us. So
mm,
hats off to them. But I'm at my mom's. It's Thanksgiving, and she's got different family members from all over the country at her house. So she makes 4 different lasagnas. I'm no chef, but I've never made a lasagna successfully. She made 4, the gluten, the non-dairy, the what, she's got it all laid out. And I'm watching her in the kitchen and I'm hearing her downplay all of them. Oh, it's been done for a while. It might be cold. This one's kind of watery, so you might not like this one. This one, might be, and I just saw her setting the bar really low for everybody so that no matter what, just by tasting it, we would all be, happy. Like we were going in with expectations that can only be met. But it was so interesting because I've always done that myself. Whenever I'm going into a meeting, I'm always trying to think of like, what's the thing I can say so that just by showing up, I've already accomplished, something successful here in this meeting. How can I just set expectations so that I don't have to overperform? Just by being here is enough. And it was so weird to hear her doing that and realize that's not the voice. That voice is not mine. That voice in my head that tells me that I need to set expectations low for everyone is not me. I learned that watching her, and I'm sure many other adults in my life as a kid. And because as a child, it takes you a long time to separate and realize that you are not your mom. You are not your dad. You are, in fact, separate people. You share DNA, but you are not the same person. As you hear adults saying those things, you start to identify that I am the person who's, can only show up. I am the person who is the victim. I am the person who's being treated badly. So it was wild to see that and to connect. Oh my gosh, I don't have to listen to that voice anymore because it's not even me. And then the even worse thoughts, the things that I heard my dad say about himself and the threats he made on his own life and things he was going to do, and how I carried that voice in my head. And in that moment realized those are bullshit too. I don't have to, I don't have to want to kill myself. That's just something that I learned watching somebody else say out loud all the time. And it was just so eye-opening to realize that, again, those thousands of thoughts that dictate so much of our action and our activity every day, most of them aren't even yours. You learned them as a kid, watching other people manage their situations poorly. So again, you've got the responsibility and the opportunity to change that narrative, that dialogue in your head, into things that are more productive than the ones that are probably in the way and holding you back.
Beautifully said. But for that, you need to stand still for a moment. For that, you need to actually hold fire, just stop, feel, think, reevaluate. And that's what most people don't get to do. And they don't get to do it because they don't they don't give themselves the space. I mean, it is, if we think through, if you could just do one small change a day, and that's really how you create empires, legacies by consistent action, but consistent small actions every day to get you better. You and me, we're both living proof of exactly that. If you think through, could you do 1% change? Could you spend 1% of the day in getting yourself better? And people say 1%, oh, that's probably doable. Well, guys, that's 15 minutes. 15 minutes is 1%. So could you actually invest 15 minutes into yourself? And most people are not able to even do that. And here you are. I mean, you had this breakthrough at quite an early age. I think that injury came at a beautiful, beautiful time for you. I had far too many injuries, mentally, more emotionally rather than physical. But these injuries, they did not lead me onto the same path. They gave me small, trauma comes in layers. When you start healing, that comes in layers too. But because I had so many trauma layers, so I was still unpacking. There's still boxes somewhere there. Are there still boxes in your cupboard?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, a ridiculous amount. And there's just so many opportunities that I've taken because of this journey that I've been on. I've said yes to things that I otherwise would have been too afraid to do and would not have taken a chance on. I mean, one of the biggest is literally where I live now. I live in Canada because I was living in Seattle for my entire life, and we were in a situation where housing price, we owned our home, but we were getting to a point where we could not afford to stay in it.
Wow.
COVID hit, shut everything down. My wife lost her job. I was in a job that my doctor every year literally told me, quit that job. It is killing you and it's toxic. And I just kept doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And finally one day, my wife had been I think joking, but now that we're here, I realize she was more serious the whole time. But she always said, if you want to move to Canada, let's go, because she was born here. Like, just coincidentally, her family happened to be in Canada when she was born. So she always felt like she had this ticket to something else for a reason. And one day, circumstances lined up to be what they were. And I said, that's it. Let's go. Let's try something else. And so I came up here and realized, in doing so, that I lived a very reactive life. I lived in response
Mm.
to circumstances that came to me.
Mm.
And in making that choice, I realized I have more control of my life than I ever thought possible. Um, and I faced a huge fear. We literally moved to a town where we knew nobody. Like, it
Mm.
was just picked a place on a map that looks good. Let's go there. And so it's given me a lot of time in isolation to think about all of those things. And so,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I still have dad issues. I mean, he's still around, and we don't have much of a relationship anymore, but the childhood version of me does and
Mm.
wrestles with that.
Mm.
Um, we talked about addiction a little bit. I don't know that I ever considered myself an alcoholic, but I certainly relied on alcohol to cope with my feelings and the discomfort that life likes to throw at you. So I took 7 years of not doing that, and just recently have experimented with, can I have a glass of wine and not turn it into 9? Can I have a beer and have it not turn into a weekend? And I can. And so I'm sort of testing those waters now and realizing, okay, I've grown. I can, my relationship with this is different. Um, I still don't have the body that I want. I still don't, I still don't manage our money the way I want to. I every day wish I could be a better parent to my kids and a better husband to my wife. But not in the same way that I used to. I used to think, how can they even love me? Like,
Ah.
what purpose do I even serve in their life? Where now I know what that purpose is. I just want to do it better. So yeah, I mean, anybody who gets on one of these things and tells you they've got it all figured out and they've got the 3-point plan that's actually got it nailed, they don't have it nailed either. Like, they might
No,
be able to help
no,
you take a lot of
no.
steps in the right direction, but nobody's got this figured out. We're all just throwing our best guess against the wall.
Exactly. And I think that's part of our journey. There is not a single dad who turns around and says, wow, I did a great job. We all have got that guilt because we all have got children at an age where we also want to work, where we also have got heaps of other challenges in our lives. You cannot be that perfect person. And there's, I think, a lot of dads create their own prison there by not seeing what they actually have done well. Certainly don't. I have not been there for my children due to working stupid hours and drinking afterwards to relax, um, for many many reasons. Yet at the same token, whilst my children initially were when they were teenagers, they became quite outspoken. What a shit that I was. Um, and then nowadays, when they're in their 20s, they actually say, hey, you did a lot of things right. You actually look at that, look at that, look at that, and you did that, that, that. I think that is the beautiful balanced view that comes with time. And I think for those parents who are going through this kind of barrage of guilt from themselves and maybe from their children, I think things will get better. And I think the key is to actually just keep working on those relationships. Just don't give up and just put new positive things in there, positive experiences. And you did that. You just said that there's, whilst there are a lot of negativity there, you have managed to replace that negativity with humor, with other positive emotions. But what do you do when things get really hard? I mean, when there are those voices coming out of the cupboard, when they
Mhm.
are telling you you're a failure,
Mhm.
and when you actually feel the darkness washing over you.
So, so that's the thing. I hit kind of a rock bottom. I mean, everyone's got multiple rock bottoms. Mine came last fall when the job that I had that I was counting on to, feed my family and pay the rent went away.
Hmm.
And fear took over because I'd already taken this huge risk, leaving a 20-year career,
Hmm.
going out and trying something totally different, and it blew up within a year. And I just thought, who starts over at this point?
Hmm.
How do you possibly start over this late in life? And it's a relative term,
Hmm.
obviously. Uh, and I was so afraid. And I've been doing this podcast for a while, and I had spoken with a coach that I really connected with, and I thought, very highly of. And so at that point, I reached out to him because I didn't know what else to do.
Mm.
I was like, I don't know how to get myself out. I'm literally gonna have to go, apply for a job at the local coffee bar and figure something out because I'm stuck. And he was like, slow down. No, you
Mm.
don't. You're just the story you're telling yourself is you're an unqualified, useless person that has no place in society. Let's That's not true. I know that you don't know that right now, but that's not the truth. And so he just came up with, you've got time now. So you're going to spend an hour a day in the gym. You're just going to go and you're not going to worry about a job. You're not going to look for a job for that hour. You're going to go move. You're going to lift heavy things. And I was like, okay, I'm out of ideas. I'll do whatever you think. And I've always hated the gym. I hated it so much. Every time I was in it, I just thought, when I look back on my life when I'm 80, am I going to be happy about the hours that I spent in this same room lifting these same heavy plates for no reason? I now know yes, right?
Uh,
I know now that when I am still able to get off the couch without hurting and I'm able to get on the floor and play with my grandkids, yeah, I'm going to be thankful for all those times in the gym. But the interesting thing that happened was, by doing that, all of a sudden I was doing something hard every day and I was accomplishing it. And so my confidence started to grow. So
Absolutely.
then I took more chances in the jobs that I applied for and went out further and further out on a limb, ended up getting a job that paid more than the one I just lost. And it came with a lot of benefits, and one of them was like they flew us to Europe for this big trip, and I was like, that's awesome, this is pretty cool. And I just stuck with it. I just kept going to the gym, and it wasn't every day, but it was every other day going to the
Yeah.
gym and then altering it with something else. But here I am now in July, and that happened in November, and I have not had a serious depressive episode since I started doing that.
Yes.
And so again, going back to that idea that depression, anxiety, all that stuff, yes, there is a clinical level to that. And I'm not trying to downplay anyone who like needs medication. Like
Mm.
I'm not one to tell you not to do that. For me, it didn't work. I tried all of them and none of them worked. They would work for a while, but not long enough. This lifting heavy things, doing something hard every single day, and showing that I am someone who deserves to be confident in what they can do, changed everything. So now I don't, I still worry that I will wake up one day and be depressed and not have an explanation why and have to have my family deal with it and not be able to do anything for days. But I'm building more and more evidence that it's not coming because it's been so long. And I have enough compassion now to realize that when I do, it's because I'm sick and I need to rest. And that's okay. If it does come back, that's all it is. There's nothing flawed about me. It's
Mm.
just something that I have to live with. But I've seen now what the medicine is that keeps it at bay. And so I just try as much as I can to do it. Right now is honestly kind of a tough time. That trip to Europe I mentioned threw me out of my routine. As I was trying to build it back, I added some trail running. I hurt my knee, which led to a foot injury, which led to a back injury, which I just re-injured the other day.
Oh
So for like a
no.
month, I haven't been able to do my routine. I've just been
Oh,
taking care of myself by
yeah.
sitting on the couch trying to heal.
Oh.
So that starts to make things go a little squirrely up here. So I was just talking about this on our show.
Mm.
You sort of wake up every day going, what can I do? What
Mm.
mobility do I have? And so for me, it's been swimming. So I can still swim with
Brilliant.
this back pain. So I go do what
Brilliant.
I can there. And that's what it comes down to for anyone listening to this. You do what you can.
Mm.
Tony Horton, the P90X guy, when we talked to him, he said, do your best and forget the rest. You can watch all of the perfect form videos and you can, get the macros dialed down to the exact one for you can also drive yourself crazy trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
So if for you today, going for a walk for 30 minutes is all you can do, or 10 minutes, or just putting on your shoes so that tomorrow you put your shoes on and this time you can actually get out the door, you got to just do what you can do and not focus so much on the outcome because the outcome is going to come one way or another. It's just, what effort can I put in today to get a little bit closer to that hopefully
True.
audacious goal that I've set for myself.
Beautifully said. Because these setbacks are normal. And it is, what can you do? I mean, we spoke a lot about the importance of movement. And I love it what you said, that you actually went into the gym and it gives you that confidence and you're actually jumping over your shadow. You're actually doing something that you don't really like. And that's often the case. I mean, who wants to now go get really sweaty, etc.? And most of the times immediately I don't want to, but I force myself to. And then within minutes, I actually feel really good. And so I had the same experience, and it's certainly, I lost my job in early March, and have not been working since then. But what I did is I increased my physical exercise every single day. And uh, nowadays, I really feel odd when I haven't done anything. Equally, I feel really odd when I have not had emotional self-care, when I have not worked on my emotional intelligence, on my psychological insights, on some positivity that I actively pursue. And that has helped me tremendously. That has really put steroids onto my growth, as far as the the my personality development is concerned. So
Mhm.
there's this, again, this post-traumatic growth that we are talking about is so powerful. Your nutrition. We talked a lot about your health, and your physical health by with exercise, but I mean, one of the things that stress does very nicely is interrupt your gut microbiome, the leaky gut, the kind of bloated feeling, the kind of feeling like shit, because literally all the wrong substances from the shit are getting reabsorbed into your system,
Yeah.
inflammation. And when I hear injury after injury after injury, hang on, hang on.
Yeah.
Have you looked a bit into your gut? Have you looked a bit into your nutrition?
Nutrition for sure. I
Mm,
haven't done any sort of,
yeah,
official work on my gut health, and it's been on my list to do for a long time. And,
yeah,
again, life gets in the way.
not exactly.
Um, so I do know that, I was very heavily focused on increasing my protein
Mm,
significantly prior to my travel and everything that I did. And then interestingly, when we went to Europe, again, I had been sober for 7 years. We went to Europe and I thought, I'm going to be in Italy. Am I really not going to try the wine? Like, am I really going to deprive myself of something I've heard my entire life? No, come on. Let's live a little. It's going to be okay.
exactly.
You're a grown up. I've been a vegetarian for most of my life. When I'm in Barcelona, am I not going to eat meat? Come on, let's be real. So we just kind of went, whatever's on the menu, that's what we're going to order, and
Yeah.
we're not going to try to, through translation. Oh, could we get that gluten free with the vegetarian substitute of the? No, we're just going to order, and it's going to be fine. So it was funny because one thing I found was I basically ate whatever. So if it was pastries in the morning, pastries in the morning, fine. If it was wine with lunch, fine, wine with lunch. So we kind of ate whatever. And what was interesting is you could tell, even though we weren't eating the best choices of food, the quality was so much better because it was real ingredients. It was things that were made that morning
Mhm,
in that
mhm,
shop by that baker, not something that was flown in and shipped
mm,
on a crate from Taiwan. Like,
mm,
it was all real food. And I mean, there's literally police that go around making sure that in Italy, the food makers are using the highest possible quality ingredients. It is enforced by government regulation, which,
yeah.
living in the West, that would be laughed out of court. Like, there's no way they would do something like that. So it was very interesting to realize, wow, here I can kind of eat whatever I want and feel great. And so we sort of came home with, what if we applied some of the same lessons here? What if we loosened up our restrictions on the things that we eat? So, we kind of kept the pastries going and the cheese and crackers in the afternoon as a snack. And I didn't quite feel as good.
Ah,
But it's
absolutely.
because when you look at the back of the box of the crackers that
Please.
were made 3,000 miles away
Mm,
versus the ones that were made in the bakery that morning with the 4 ingredients, it's a different product you're putting in your body. And it is so hard. I don't know about New Zealand. I've never been there.
mm,
Walking into any grocery store anywhere in the West, it is nearly impossible to make a good choice,
mm,
because even if you stick to the outside aisles where the meat and the produce are, they've all been sprayed with something, fed something horrible. So you can be picking up a beautiful looking steak and the vegetables to go with the side, but they've all got something hidden in them.
mm,
So it's really hard. And so, I mean, to your point, I think you're right. I think there is something to my sort of shift to intuitive eating that backfired a bit,
mm,
not only because I still wasn't making the healthiest of choices, but even the ones I was making are still going to be held back significantly by the
mm.
quality of what is available.
Touche. No, I 100% agree with you there. And really 80%, 90% of those things that you can buy in the supermarket should not be called food, because food is defined as something that improves your health and that is there to actually let your body grow. Whilst those kind of, as I said, 80, 90% are so laden with essentially poisons, toxins, things that are really quite cool to extend shelf life, but certainly not good for your gut microbiome, not good for your the balance of omega acids in your body, and so many other things. And I think that is one of the realizations I had, nearly 8 years ago now, because I felt tired, and yes, I was working hard, but I had stopped drinking. I thought I had a good nutrition, but I just, is that it? Is that middle age now? Am I getting old? So I went to a nutritionist that I revered and said, "Look, come on, here's my money. Take me apart." And turns out I had leaky gut. I had shitloads of food allergies. And so I went onto an omission diet, had the right supplements. Blimey, 3 months later, all those niggly pains I had, gone. I had been crippled by an Achilles tendinitis, couldn't walk more than 2,000 steps, and those in agony, gone. Old shoulder injury, gone. Hay fever, minimal. Smelly feet, gone. And I
Wow.
was just changing your diet. And I
Yeah.
thought, what the hell? And so I think there is, I proved it to myself. It was as if someone switches on the lights. I love what you said about the protein-rich diet. Absolutely. But I mean, you need the protein, you need the essential amino acids, which are so beautiful. But you need vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, selenium, all those good things that are helping those proteins now to be, or the amino acids to be changed into what matters. Serotonin. So that is the feel good, the beautiful drug that the happiness drug, or happiness compound, shall I say, chemical
Yeah.
compound, neurotransmitter. And that is actually 90% is produced in the gut and then transported into the system. So I love what you do with the focus on the protein
Mhm.
and learning about the impact of those foods. So again, you're actually trialing things, see what works on you, because there's
Yeah.
not one thing that works for everyone. Not
Right.
one diet, one lifestyle, one food plan. No, you need to figure out what works for you based upon your genes and, more important than, the epigenetics. So here you are, you're again experimenting, but you're having an inside look. You're actually doing something and assessing, and
Yeah.
then do something new, assessing. And that's how we grow. Most people, they just, are in their
Just
comfort
keep doing
zone.
the same thing.
Exactly. And expecting
Yeah.
different outcome. Da, da, da. And here
Yeah.
you are. You have lost what, 70 pounds? Uh,
Yep. Yep.
wow. And
And
kudos,
that,
man.
so thank you. Thank you. So a few things on that. One, you talked about the experimentation, and the most recent one came from that coach that I was working with. One of the first conversations we had, he said, tell me what your diet's like. What's going
Mm,
on? Because I came to him with, I feel awful. Like,
mm,
I don't need to jump out of bed, but to not drag myself out of bed, and just struggle through the day would be nice.
mm.
And so the first thing we talked about was coffee. I I have an unhealthy love for coffee. It is just something that right? It's kind of the best thing ever. And for the longest time I was like, if I can just have my cup of, like, I just felt like coffee was the one thing I knew I could get right every day. I knew how to make it. It would be there in the morning. I would drink it and just, like, it'd be great. But the problem turned out to be not only the cup that I had in the morning, but it was the few that I had in the morning, and then a couple in the afternoon, and then some in the evening. It was my main food group. It's pretty much all I consumed. And so so my coach said, well, that's a lot. Let's scale that back. Could you cut it down to like 2 cups a day? And I, was terrified and scared, and begrudgingly admitted to, okay, sure, let's try this. It's crazy. I cut it down to 2 before 10 a.m. So I had the full 12 hours for the caffeine to be burned up in my system, to not have it interfere with my sleep.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, I got exactly what I wanted. I woke up in the morning feeling better than okay. I was able to get up at 5, get out my journal and write for a bit, do some meditating, kind of plan my day, be really intentional. maybe, walk the dogs early. Like I had all this functionality that before was like, oh, if I can get out of bed, this is going to be a good day. And so it was just crazy how that one little change changed my entire energy level. But to the weight loss, you know, I think I've recently changed my opinion on what worked because I credited the keto diet for a long time. My co-host and I we were having a conversation, off mic before we even had a show, and he was talking about how it worked for him. He dropped like 40 pounds or something using it, and I was like, "Well, I'm a vegetarian, but I'll alter it and see what I can do." But at the same time, I also quit drinking,
Ah,
which was a lot of calories that I sort
absolutely.
of knew but didn't admit. And so in combination, I quit drinking, cut out a bunch of carbs, kind of started going to the gym and riding my bike and doing all these things. So it was a nice perfect storm of all these things, right? Pick any one of them, you'll have some benefits.
Of
Do four
course.
of them at once, it's going to come on like a hurricane. So that's what worked for me. So I suggest quit drinking, do the keto diet, drink less coffee, and meditate, I guess.
Well, for me, I'm very close to your goal, the 70 pounds loss. For me, I would say drink more coffee. And but having said that, intermittent fasting, yes, reduce the carbs, increase the activity. Really, activity is the one thing. And with that, I don't mean twice a week going to the gym and doing crazy workouts and then can't walk for 3 days, but I mean everyday activities, and in actual fact every few hours activity. Keep your metabolic rate, your basic metabolic rate up, with the post workout activity in your system. Because when
Yeah.
you do a workout, it doesn't just stop there. For about 4 hours or a few hours afterwards, your metabolic rate is up. So perfect. So you're quite right. So, and it just shows two different approaches, yet we had actually similar outcomes. Increased happiness, increased self-confidence, the change from I'm a failure to actually look at me, I've showed up, and look at me, I've lost actually X amount of weight, or I have increased my walking distance from 100 meters to 5Ks without getting puffed.
Yeah.
Wow. Whatever
Yeah.
your baseline is, that's cool. That's just the baseline. At least you know where you are from. So it's good to actually measure that and do a reality check, i.e., what is your weight?
Yeah.
What is your how far can you walk? Can you actually tie up your shoes without falling over? Or whatever these baselines are, draw them, accept them for what they are, and then use them as a baseline to start your new journey. And I think that is what so many people forget. They do the baseline and then get, oh, look at me. And then the pity party comes on. And I'm tempted to do the same, but nowadays I hear that voice and say, oh, come, really? Really? Same old story? Nah, 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 nah.
Mhm.
Why me? Why me? Well, yes, if my
I'll
pet
tell you
hawk.
why me. I sat on the couch playing video games and eating Doritos. That's why. Like that's
Yeah.
why me. I did it to myself. Come on.
Touche,
Nobody
touche.
nobody else was putting that food in my face. That was me.
Oh,
Nobody else was
oh,
sitting on the couch. That was me.
well done, Jeremy. Well done. Exactly. Taking ownership. And I think that is the important bit. Take ownership because you are the steward of you're the captain of your ship. And man, I mean, I nowadays I'm more and more the ring master in my circus, no longer the bearded lady or the crazy dude. Um, and that is a privilege. That is a choice. And I think you are a living example. You have reinvented yourself, not just physically, but also mentally in your job. Um, you've gone through some bloody hard times, and you're here being very authentic, very open about it. Many men, especially when they have achieved certain status, they would dread to do what you and I are doing here, being open on mic and say, yeah, I have been suicidal. I've been that and that and that. I've drunk too much. Do you think, have you experienced any negativity ever in your life by being so open about your problems or about your path?
I don't think I have. I mean, there's certainly I mean, I guess the closest connection I could make is that, when you meet somebody and if you're a little too open too early,
Mm,
suddenly they stop returning your calls or they're a little too busy to hang out or
mm,
whatever. And so is that negative? Maybe, but can I be okay with not being friends with somebody that can't handle the real me? Yeah. Right. Like I don't have, this is the thing. I
mm.
hate small talk. Like it just eats me up. And I get as someone who is new to the town where he lives that like you have to have small talk to earn trust, to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to have
Yeah.
relationships. But man, anybody I meet, I would so much rather start with what's the trauma you had when you were 6 than whoo, sure is hot today, right? I mean, another day of 90 degrees. Who saw it coming in July? Weird, right? Like, I just, come on. We only have so much time on this rock, and I've
Ah,
used half of mine. I would so much rather know, like, what's really up with you. I would so much rather be
ah,
with somebody who's okay with me saying, you know what? I struggle. This is hard. Being a dad is hard. Being a husband is hard. Surviving this economy and this political environment is
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
Rather than I've got the answers. All we need to do is nobody knows. We're all guessing. Come on. So yeah, does that prevent me from having superficial fake relationships with people that don't have time to get real?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest blow that I've taken from just being who I am.
Oh, Jeremy, I love you, man. These words could have come out of my mouth, honestly, without any alteration. It's exactly the same. But I guess we both are falling into a trap here because we have made it a habit of meeting other like-minded people in our shows. So therefore, we have got this unique opportunity to grow and have meaningful discussions, to start discussions with people who are willing to answer. So this is, if you were to look around other people, I didn't want to say normal people, people around us, which
Oh,
man, which middle-aged
oh,
man would open up like we do here? They would think
yeah,
we're freaking nuts.
yeah.
And so I think maybe we are trendsetters there. Maybe we are a bit special there. But again, I agree with you. There are only so many days that I've got left in this life. I want to live those with intention. There will be enough hard days coming because I've had to learn that trauma is just waiting around the corner. And whatever you feel as, hey, this is really nice, rest assured, the rug will be pulled from underneath your feet in no time. So don't ever think that what you've got right now is guaranteed. I think that's such an important lesson. Therefore,
I
you
think
and I,
that I think that so I was just gonna say I think that works both ways too, right? That is one of the practices that I think I've recently adopted like in the last few years is I I could never have joy. I could never be okay with whatever was good because I knew this isn't going to last. This is going to go away. And so I honestly could not tell you what joy felt like for the longest time.
Mm,
But then I learned that by accepting that this will go away, that when the bad things come, they also will go away.
mm,
So just being okay, like, again, coming back to the origin story, the being in now and not worrying about what's going to change. And if right now is bad, I know it's not going to be for long. If right now is good, I know it's not going to be for long. In either case, I'm okay
mm,
because I got another breath to draw. And until that's gone, maybe I'll be okay then too. I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. We have a lot of stories and a lot of ideas, but it's all temporary. Everything is temporary. So the more you can learn to live with that, I think the more peace you can invite into your life.
mm. Wow. 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 But it is like going to the gym. You need to practice that. You can't
Yeah.
just wake up one morning or listen to this beautiful interview and then think, "Oh, wow, yeah, okay, I want peace now. Okay, let's try." Oh shit, that didn't work. So no, it is just you need to go out there and practice that. Really practice that, okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it you will not naturally succeed. But if you practice it, you will become better in it. just prior to us starting this interview, I pressed the record button, but then what I did, 10 seconds pause, I took a deep breath. I had a little thing similar to a tennis player. You know, they bounce their ball 3 times. It's exactly right what they do. They are getting themselves into the zone. Now,
Yeah.
for the tennis player, it's the 3 bounces or 2 bounces. For me, it's that breath. But whatever it is, we have honed it into such a point that a small change in our physical state, we can program the change in our mind. But that took time. That took time for me as to become a breath coach, learn about breathing, etc. I loved it what you said, that you also explored the more fringe of
Yeah.
healing, the energy
Yeah.
healing. There are many other aspects that maybe in the past were called fringe, that nowadays are becoming more accepted. Um, if you think acupuncture, well, we are talking about energy meridians that are going through, and many people would quite happily, after a sports injury, go to an acupuncturist and have themselves a bit readjusted. Yeah, that's all normal. Boom. Here you go. So things that were maybe woo woo wah wah 30 years ago are no longer.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think it is the more we can be open minded and can see which kind of teachers appear in our lives. You might find that some of these people appear just on the right moment, and some of new ideas and some of new techniques and things that you never even thought about might be the breakthrough that you need to get onto a different journey. So therefore, be open to all of that. Wow, I mean, Jeremy, you're an amazing man. You have grown, you have changed, you have transformed, you have stared the the, the abyss in the face. You have your demons, and you've learned to live with them. This is so much more than many people can say. And I'm incredibly grateful that you were so open and authentic and honest with me. I mean, that is the sign of integrity, of the humility that you showed, actually, for just admitting to all that. For that, I'm so grateful, because it shows me that what I'm doing is probably the right path. Whilst I might fall off the path, and whilst my path might be rather meandering, that's life. But I think we both have learned that these are, whatever happens, these are temporary things. And you've reminded me today that the misery, that or the fear, the terror that I felt in recent months, that is likely to go away, and maybe sooner rather than later. So I'm pleased that I did not choose a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And
Yeah.
that is what so many men nowadays do. We have got a huge rate of suicide here in
Yeah.
New Zealand, amongst, we're, I think, the second highest in youth suicide in the OECD, and um, rural farmers. There is a problem here. It's the isolation. It's the
Yeah.
it's the people not talking. And you and I are examples of maybe what we should do. Be far more open, be far more honest. And if people can't take that, then maybe these are the people that shouldn't really be in your head, in your life right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
A friend of mine always said, never forget in the dark what you know to be true in the light. And that's just,
Hmm.
that's a message that helped more times than I can count. So it's true.
Wow.
When it's the darkest, it's hard to see a possibility of light, but
Hmm.
it's there and it's coming. It might take a while, but it's
Hmm.
coming.
What's the future for Jeremy? Who is the next version that you're trying to implement?
I mean,
Who?
some of me still has some of me to lose. So I'd like to lose a few more pounds. I would like to have these
Oh,
injuries clear up so I
yeah.
can get back on the trail and keep running. I think in the end, the audacious goal that I have for myself is that 80-year-old version of me that's keeping up with my kids and their kids. I want to be able to play with my grandkids. I have a 13-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old daughter.
Hmm.
I waited until I was in my late 30s to have kids. I want to be healthy enough to hang with them, to be fun and not be a drain on them.
Hmm.
Uh, that's the version of me that I'm aiming for. So I've got a long way to know if it's all going to work, but I'm pretty sure that the steps I'm taking now are getting me closer than the ones I was taking before.
Oh, beautiful.
So yeah, I mean, I think I sort of accidentally stumbled across this phrase the other day, but I basically, I don't want to limp into the grave. I want to be healthy and active as long as I can. So if I can do that, that's version, a 96.0 or whatever it's going to
Beautiful. Beautiful. I might just join you on that journey.
be.
I think we are anyhow on parallel paths here. It
I
just
think
so
so.
happens to be that we are on different parts of our planet here. But isn't it an amazing that out of trauma can come so much joy and so much positivity and so much hope. And I think with us actually just talking about it, I now have a true honest laugh and smile on my face when this morning when I got up and I thought, oh God, I've got a guest coming. Oh, I want to
Oh, I
sleep.
know.
You
Yeah.
know. But 80% of success is just showing up, and you never know what happens. And right now you were a godsend. And whilst I'm not religious, you were actually just that injection of joy and hope that I needed. And hopefully we can continue doing that in our respective shows. Jeremy, tell us about your show. You and Zach are a team out there. Tell us about the Messy Fit.
Yes. So the show's called The Fit Mess. The website's thefitmess.com. And it is very much me and Zach doing this, being open and honest about the struggles that we're having. For a long time, we got to a point in our lives where we're like, I don't know, I'm kind of good. What are we going to talk about this week? I don't really have any struggles. And now we both kind of coincidentally in the last few months, injuries, illnesses, life gets in the way. We're kind of back to a version of square one for us. So just today we were recording an episode about some of the initial steps we're taking to kind of get back on track and rebuild our lives. So yeah, it's a couple of guys. It's a rarity in today's world. A couple of guys being open and honest about our pains and our struggles, and using a lot of vulnerability to develop a lot of strength to get through those struggles. So that's what we're doing. It's at thefitmess.com, and a new episode every week.
Beautiful. Oh, well done. Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast because all of his details are down there. So the fit mess, the messy fit, I was pulling your leg, but you didn't respond to it, bugger. So it's once a week. And you have done how many episodes now? You guys have been around for such a long time.
Yeah, we've been around 5 or 6 years. We just recorded probably our 265th episode today.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, been
Wow,
doing this a
wow,
while.
wow. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for providing this platform for men to be open and honest. You have got guests there that you grill and pull the beautiful information out. So let's keep going with that, and let's keep working on become the best versions of ourselves. Because with that, I believe we can influence our immediate surrounding. And if there are other people that can pick up the baton and do the same, I think we can change this world. This world bloody well needs it in 2024 right now, that change is coming. But I think we can do so by actually modeling the right masculinity, the right properties, traits, ways how to live. And maybe we can just be infectious with that and infect the world with a willingness to change, starting with each and every individual. So, Jeremy, hopefully we can continue with that. You're an amazing man. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show.
And thank you. And thank you for reminding me of the work I have to do as I'm hearing you say these lovely things about me and like pushing them away. Like, that's not me. That can't be true. So thank you for reminding me that I have some work to do. That's great. And for this opportunity, it really means a lot. Thank you.
Exactly. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with intention. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.